The Law Be With You podcast show, also known as Christian Fandom Geek on YouTube, is now part of the Red 5 network. Red 5 is a network of podcast shows aimed at bringing great quality content, especially Star Wars. And so look forward to some awesome collaborations on the Red 5 network with the Law Be With You podcast show. Welcome back to the Law Be With You podcast show. So we were talking about this hot topic conversation, and we've gone into talking about Rey from Star Wars, a very sort of interesting character that's divided the fan base, and talking about really this sort of Mary Sue sort of trope that's been kind of labelled at. And Omar, you've got some very strong views on this, so you go for it. You tell me what you're thinking about this sort of Mary Sue trope.
Yeah, I do think this Mary Sue trope, I mean, it's only aimed at women. Like, we do have characters that instantly are powerful. I mean, even look at Doctor Strange.
Mm,
He went to Comatage and then
mm.
he's the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah,
It's a similar setup, but no one ever questions that.
yeah,
Um, you know, even a character like Spider-Man, even Spider-Man when you see him in Civil War, it's
mm,
rebooted in the MCU. He's
yeah,
just starting out, but he's gone toe to toe with like Captain America and Winter Soldier. I mean, he actually beats Winter Soldier and Falcon in a fight
yeah,
in that in
yeah,
that in that airport scene. Winter
yeah,
Soldier
yeah.
is one of the greatest like assassins of all time, but yet
Mm.
Spider-Man, who's like a 15-year-old boy, is that powerful. So
Yeah, he's
like
going toe
when
to toe with, and he's a rookie, isn't he? And he's like
yeah,
going to toe to toe with an experienced, like you say, assassin warrior. You know,
yeah, and and
you know,
and an army vet in Sam Wilson.
yeah,
So
yeah,
but no one would ever say, "Hey, that's not realistic. That's a trope." Will they? But as if that was Spider Girl or Irana or any of those female versions of Spider Man who did
yeah.
that, I'm telling you, there'd be an issue about it.
So you think
Just
that there's a kind of bias against the Ray character because you've got, and I suppose would that tie into what you think in terms of obviously the central protagonist in Star Wars was always obviously Luke Skywalker, and obviously
yeah,
you've got obviously in the prequels, you've got obviously the sort of the play on Anakin Skywalker and what's going to happen with him. We all know what was happening to him, but
yeah,
you've never really had a woman character, female character. I mean, Princess Leia was dominant. Don't get me wrong; she was strong.
yeah,
But you're not the central protagonist where the story's just all about Ray, which is kind of how it played out. Ray and Kylo Ren, isn't it? But
yeah.
as the good side of it, it was Ray, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I was even thinking about it. I mean, the whole idea about Rey not being trained.
Yes.
Yes. Now, if you think about the original trilogy, Obi-Wan dies in A New Hope.
Mm.
Luke, I can't remember how much time there is between A New Hope and Empire,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
but in Empire, Luke goes to see Yoda at Dagobah,
yeah.
and he's only half trained before he fights Vader.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Like
So, so this
he's
is,
not even finished, and he goes toe to toe, and almost, and we see what happens when he goes to Bespin. But
yes,
yet
that's right. That's
Ray,
right.
but yet Ray, it's a completely out of bounds that Ray could actually hold a lightsaber.
Okay. So,
While this is a person who's a scavenger who is actually a born fighter. She has a stick and she's lived on her own. This is Luke, who never fought before, was was in a moisture farm in with Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen,
he was.
hanging out at the Toshi station. Like, yes, the thing is then on the other side, yes, he was a great pilot. We know that because he had a
Yeah,
background in that. That's fine,
yeah,
but he
yeah.
was half trained and in in any kind of hand to hand combat. But yet he went up against Vader. Now
It's a
on
good
the other
point. It's a
side,
good point. It's a good point
other
because
side,
obviously,
Ray was actually had hand to hand training or
yeah.
at least some sort of background. So when she had a lightsaber, that's some sort of issue.
Okay. Okay, guys. So this is kind of like the Last Jedi debate part two.
But I'm just saying that the whole trope of the Mary Sue, I think it's quite spurious, especially when it comes to Rey, because if you
Yeah.
look at the hero's journey that she has and the one that
Yes.
Luke has,
Yeah.
we already established that there are so much parallels that I think a lot of fans forget. But then
Yeah. I would agree with that.
and then she gets criticism where Luke he gets a pass. Now, if you wanted to say, okay, then it's Anakin's son, this is Palpatine's granddaughter. So you know what I mean. Even in that, there is lineage.
Oh, that was. Oh, you kind of you stretching it on that one a little bit. Probably the reason why I say you stretched it on that one is because it does seem, and I think we probably both agree on this, that the whole Palpatine thing was thrown in ad hoc
Oh
at the
gosh,
end.
let's not get it twisted. It sucked. But if we're going to go into if we're going to go into the whole idea of where we are going to accept that midichlorians exist, I don't. That was just stupid. But if we are going to say that exists and that's a hereditary thing,
Yeah.
then Luke and Rey, like being fast learners and being adept at the Force,
Mm.
kind of squares itself
Well,
on
okay. So
both
I hear what
sides.
you no, yeah, no, I hear what you're saying now, and you that's a really good point as well. Yeah, I agree with that. What about the fact that okay, so yeah, I generally agree with that, but I suppose the one thing I'd probably say is this: when Luke leaves Dagobah and goes to Bespin to go and fight Vader, well, essentially he wants to rescue his friends, doesn't he? It's not that he wants to
Yeah,
fight Vader. He wants to rescue his friends, and that shows that his heart of compassion as a hero and that he's the good guy. And
yeah,
when he goes, Yoda tells him, don't go. Your training is not complete. And
yeah,
so I guess I'd probably say is this: if the hero is going to go off and the training's not complete, the film should reference it somewhere. It should say, look, okay, and you've got some skills, but you're not ready yet. And I think if the new sequel trilogy referenced that,
yeah,
or if it gave an explanation, like, okay, so give me an example. Like, apparently, I was talking to someone online, a guy called Aaron Sky Guy, and we had a conversation about this, about Rey and her powers, and he mentioned that the novelization of The Force Awakens
yeah.
is says something like Snoke was the one that helped Rey beat Kylo Ren. Now,
And I mean, if you think of what happens in Last Jedi, that
mm,
could be a possibility.
that could, yeah. So I haven't read the novelization of the
Yeah,
of the last of the Force Awakens, but that probably is the case. I don't think he's lying, so I think that's probably the case. However, I don't think that it should be in the novelization. If that's a big plot point, that should be in the film. That we should see that.
oh
If
yeah,
he's
but I mean, even if you look at Splinter and the Off of the Mind's Eye, which was the first novelization from Star Wars,
yeah,
there was other plot points in there that didn't translate until a lot later.
yeah,
So the novelization sometimes it comes from what was in the script that doesn't necessarily make it to the cut in the
yeah,
final cut of the
they
film.
edit it
But
for the sake of
yeah,
time and things like that.
yeah. And just as a side note, I just wanted to ask you a question actually.
Oh yeah, please do.
Okay, how far do you think Dagobah is from Bespin?
Oh my gosh, oh, that's a good point. I never even thought
Because
about it.
this is something that's always bugged me in Star Wars, especially in
Yeah,
Empire.
yeah,
Is that number one? We know that the X-wing is supposed to be a short range ship.
yes, of course, yeah,
Yeah, number one. Number two, by the time like Han and everyone sees Lando
yeah.
and goes to dinner for the first night,
Mm,
Luke is there pretty much. Like
mm.
how he leaves Dagobah and he's there for after for desserts.
Oh gosh, so now we talk about the physics of this.
Yeah.
Does it
It's
make
just it's
yeah?
just
Because
it's just it's just something that's always bugged me.
yeah, but they've done this before with the whole Kessel Run thing as well. Like, remember this with Han Solo? There was like, you know, they had to change it in the Solo movie so that it
Yeah,
because one is talking about time and one's talking about distance, isn't it? Do you remember when he
yeah,
talks about him beating the speed for the Kessel
yeah.
Run?
It's just yeah in 12 parsecs. Yeah, I
Yeah,
get that, but it's always been a plot hole in my brain where it's like they both split off from Hoth, one to Dagobah, one on the way to Bespin. It took forever to get to Bespin
Yeah,
with the Falcon,
yeah.
and then the X-wing got there like not that long after.
Well, maybe Snoke's got involved in that, like, and he's the one that's manipulated. It's him that's manipulated it and sorted out that Luke gets.
But if anyone actually could explain that, like who's listening to the show, please do, because it's, for the past nearly 30 years, that's always been something in my brain that I just could never understand.
Yeah, because obviously, do you know this is an interesting thing as well, and we're kind of like, and we're kind of coming towards the end of this episode, which has been a glorious episode, a lot of fun, very lively episode as well, absolutely brilliant. So thank you, Omar, once again. I didn't even get to give you your title at the beginning, which is font of knowledge and cosmic wizardry in canon lore and Star Wars. There you go, I've got it in there. Praise the Lord. So. Yeah, I mean, because obviously someone would have to think about, when you're doing an imaginary world, and you even think of Tolkien and things like that. You either have to have someone like Tolkien he knew the physics of his world so well, and you probably find there wouldn't really be any contradictions going on there, or you would have to have people around George Lucas or around. I mean, obviously George Lucas has got a lot of his ideas from Joseph Campbell, which is obviously you end up going into the Jungian archetypes, but you'd have to have people around George Lucas who'd be like just kind of thinking, okay, the physics of how this works, like, does this make sense even within this imaginary world? Does this journey make sense? Does this, and obviously we hope that they've done their homework so that it's right, but if they haven't, we'll have to, like you say, you've asked the question now in terms of guys at home, if you are Star Wars fans, and I know a lot of the guys at home that listen to this show on the Red 5 network as well are Star Wars fans and collaborators and storytellers, and listening on the podcast as well, Lord Be With You podcast show. If you're a Star Wars fan, drop us a message on Christian Fandom Geek on the YouTube channel, and we will include your message or what you've written. We'll include it in our next episode of the show, especially if it's a Star Wars episode.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Definitely.
Omar, it's been a fantastic, amazing conversation. I'll let you get back to some stuff that you were doing because I know you were busy, and and we'll sort out another episode with you very, very soon on the Lord Be With You podcast show. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lord Be With You podcast show on Christian Fandom Geek. I really appreciate every one of you who listen to the show via podcast player or on YouTube as Christian Fandom Geek. We're also on the Red 5 network as well. Really appreciate all of you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this awesome project and enterprise. I've got some great collaborators on the show as well, having some awesome episodes, and we're really glad that you are part of the ride. Keep listening to the show. Also, you can follow the show on Twitter. If you put in the Lord Be With You podcast show or Lord Be With You, it will come up on Twitter as well. So if you want to interact with the show, leave a comment and leave a suggestion for future episodes. Would be really happy to engage with you as fans of the show. Keep safe, and we'll be with you very, very soon on the Lord Be With You podcast show.